They say family isn't who shares your blood, it's who remembers your birthday. That's where this story begins. Hey guys, tonight we witness a betrayal so quiet, so deeply familiar, it could have shattered anyone who still dared to hope. Imagine planning your 30th birthday, sending heartfelt invitations to the people you once called home, and sitting alone under soft lights beside a cake no one came to cut. This is not just a story of being forgotten, it's a story of reclaiming your worth. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Revenge Stories 94, but only if you truly believe that emotional justice is a story worth telling. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe pour a glass of wine, and let's step into tonight's story together. My family did not come to my birthday. My name is Hazel. I turned 30 this year, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself hope. Not for presents, not for fanfare, just for presents, a quiet table in a cozy bar down south of the city, a string of warm lights, and a few pictures from my childhood taped to the wall. That was all I needed. That was all I wanted. It was my way of saying, hey, I still exist. I still want to belong. Even if we have grown distant over the years, maybe someone in my family would remember the day I was born. I booked the space 2 weeks ahead, a small deposit, nothing fancy. I picked out a red velvet cake medium size, just enough for 6. I even prepared a few handwritten thank you cards in case anyone showed up. My mother, Linda, got an invite. So did Rick, my stepfather, Madeline, my younger sister, Tyler, my half brother, all of them. The group text confirmed they received it. No one asked questions, no one said no. That night I got there early. I chose a seat near the bar where the light felt soft and warm, but wouldn't draw too much attention. At 7, I checked my phone. No messages. At 7:30, I smoothed out the edge of the tablecloth. The bartender nodded kindly, poured me a small glass of water. 8 o'clock came. The cake still sat untouched. The thank you cards remained sealed in my purse. My phone stayed quiet. I looked around, trying not to meet the eyes of strangers. I didn't want pity. I didn't want to explain. I just wanted one familiar voice to walk through the door and say, hey, happy birthday. The bartender must have noticed something in my face. He poured a small glass of plum wine and slid it toward me without a word. Maybe they're just running late, he offered. I nodded, thanked him, took a small sip, tried to swallow the lump in my throat along with it. 9 o'clock. Nothing. No footsteps. No text saying, sorry we forgot. No voice calling out my name from across the room. Just the slow hum of a place filled with people who weren't here for me. I took out my phone and opened the camera, snapped a picture of the cake, added a caption like happy to be alive another year and posted it to social media. I don't know why, maybe to convince someone, maybe to convince myself. I cut one slice, ate it slowly. It didn't taste like much, just sugar and memory. But I didn't want the cake to look untouched. Forgotten. Like me. 10 o'clock. I tipped the bartender, packed up the leftovers, and walked out. The night air wrapped around me like something trying too hard to be gentle. I drove home in silence, no music, no messages, just the sound of my tires and the weight of a celebration that never happened. When I walked into my apartment, the only sound was my own heels on the floor. I dropped my purse on the counter, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't cry, not then. I just stared at the ceiling hands folded in my lap, heartbeat steady but heavy. It wasn't their absence that hurt the most. It was the fact that some part of me still hoped they'd come, still believed they might remember, still wanted them to. That hope, that was the part that broke me. $1 and the chain breaks. A week passed. I didn't mention the birthday. I didn't bring it up in the group chat or text anyone separately. I wanted to see if maybe it had slipped their minds and they'd reach out late. But no one did. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, as I was eating lunch at my desk, my phone buzzed with a message from Mom, group chat, the same one I had used to send the birthday invites. Hey, family, Rick's 55th birthday is coming up. We're doing a weekend at Pacific Shores Resort. It's going to be $1,200 per person. Please send it to me by Friday. Love you all. I read it 3 times. There was no mention of my birthday, no sorry, no acknowledgement, just a polite invoice disguised as a family message. Madeline replied almost instantly, just send it, Mom. So excited. Tyler chimed in a few minutes later. All paid. Can't wait. My hands were still holding the phone, but they felt distant, like they didn't belong to me anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't surprised. I was relieved, coldly, quietly relieved, because now I had proof. Not just the absence, but the replacement. I wasn't family. I was a wallet, a bank account that remembered their due dates. So I opened my payment app, typed in my mother's number, entered the amount $1. In the memo line, I wrote happy birthday, and I hit send. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. I didn't give them anything they could argue with. After that, I logged out of all shared accounts, changed passwords, unlinked my name from every joint bill. I moved some money into a new savings account and called my building manager to schedule a lock change. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew Linda. Silence to her wasn't silence, it was defiance, and she never walked away from defiance without trying to crush it. Later that night, I sat on my couch holding a warm mug of tea, breathing deeper than I had in months. No one had texted back, not even a question mark. I took that as a warning, or maybe a promise. Either way, I was ready. The next morning, I blocked them all. Mom, Rick, Madeline, Tyler, every number, every contact, every connection. With each name I erased, it felt like removing a piece of rope that had been pulling me backward for years. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I didn't feel free yet. But I felt the first inch of space around me. And that space, it was sacred. That weekend, I walked through a flea market near Echo Park. Alone. No one asking me to spot them for lunch. No one pretending to be curious about my job while easing into a favor. I bought myself a small ceramic bird, a dove with its wings open. It wasn't expensive, but when I held it in my hand, I felt like I'd bought something bigger, a symbol, a reminder that I was done waiting for apologies that would never come, and done paying to be treated like I didn't matter. They call the cops, you call it freedom. It started 2 days later. I was working from my favorite coffee shop headphones and focused on a client call when my phone vibrated with a strange notification. Suspicious login attempt detected on your account. My chest tightened. Not panic, just that low, heavy squeeze you get when something old and ugly comes crawling back. I opened the app. There it was. An access attempt on the joint account I used to share with my mother, the one I'd used to help pay for Tyler's college tuition, the one that covered Madeline's wedding dress, the one I had foolishly left open, assuming they'd never push it that far. I didn't hesitate. I called the bank immediately. Freeze the account, move everything into my personal savings. Change verification steps, remove all linked users. The woman on the other end of the line paused. Are you sure you want to do this, Ms. Miller? I exhaled slowly. Yes, I should have done it years ago. That evening, the calls began. First from unknown numbers, then texts, rapid, angry bursts of confusion. What the hell are you doing? Why change the locks? Why block me? You froze the account. Call me back now. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence said enough. But I had underestimated Linda. I always had. She had a way of turning herself into the victim the moment she lost control. I should have expected the next part. I didn't. Friday evening. I was halfway through a movie when the doorbell rang. Not a knock, a rapid official buzz that made the floor vibrate slightly. I glanced at the security cam. 2 police officers stood outside, one older, stern-faced, the other younger, holding a notepad. Both looked tired, like they had already been given a version of the story and were bracing for confrontation. I opened the door a crack. Ma'am, are you Hazel Miller? The older officer asked. I am. We received a report that you're missing. Your family's concerned you may be mentally unstable, possibly at risk of harming yourself. The words didn't make sense for a second. Missing, I stared at him, blinked. Then something cold washed over me, not fear, not anger, just a deep cutting disbelief. I'm fine, I said, my voice steady. I just cut off contact with some people. That's not a crime. The younger officer stepped in. Do you have someone who can verify that you're safe? I handed over my phone, opened my work chat app. I've been on calls all day. There's a live meeting going on right now. Over 10 people can confirm. He nodded. Your family said you haven't responded to calls or messages. I gave a dry smile. They also tried to break into my bank account. They ignored my birthday and then sent me a bill for someone else's party. They were quiet for a moment. The older officer finally spoke. We don't get involved in family matters. But if you feel harassed, you might want to consider a restraining order. I will, I said, and I meant it. They left without further questions. I stood at the door long after it closed, phone still in hand, listening to the quiet of my apartment. For a moment, I didn't feel like I was in my own home. I felt like I was in a courtroom one where I had to keep proving I was sane just because I refused to be used. The text didn't stop. Hazel opened the door. You can't treat your family like this. Rick's losing his mind. He thinks you've gone crazy. I didn't respond. I wasn't that girl anymore, the one who used to answer calls in the middle of the night just because someone said they were desperate, the one who drove hours to help Madeline pick a wedding venue she never thanked me for, the one who kept showing up. I wasn't hiding, I was choosing. Saturday noon, the doorbell again, this time not polite. Angry rhythmic pounding. I walked slowly to the door, not afraid, just tired, tired of being summoned. The camera showed them all. Linda, Rick, Madeline, even Tyler stood behind them, his eyes glued to his phone, probably recording every second for some family archive of Hazel's downfall. I didn't open the door. I turned on the speaker. "What are you doing here?" I asked, calm. "Open the door right now," Linda snapped. "We need to talk." "About what? How you tried to get into my bank account." "Stop this nonsense," Rick said, arms crossed. "You're acting like a child. We're all worried, and this is how you respond." I laughed. "Not bitter, just tired." "Worried. You filed a missing persons report. That's your version of love." Madeline banged on the door. "Who do you think you are, ignoring our texts? Now you're playing victim." I took a deep breath. My voice, when it came, was cold but clear. "What do I want to be left alone? What do I need? Nothing from any of you." They weren't here for reconciliation. They were here for control, and I wasn't giving it to them. The house, the loans, the lie. 2 days later, I got an email from my bank. A refinancing inquiry had been submitted on the Lake Travis property, the house, the one under my mother's name and mine. The same house I co-signed on 6 years ago when Linda called me at midnight, sobbing, saying they were about to be evicted. I had just gotten a raise. I was finally stable. She said she just needed a name to qualify that they would handle all the payments. I was tired that night, emotionally worn down. I told myself I can help. I should help. So I signed. I saved them. And now they were trying to borrow against that house again, without asking me. Without warning, I stared at the screen, feeling something sharp pressed behind my ribs. Not shock, not even betrayal. Something older than that, a deep, quiet realization this was never about love. It had always been about access. That night I didn't sleep, I didn't cry either. I just sat on the couch with my laptop open, rereading every old email, every message thread, every agreement I had kept just in case. I called my attorney the next morning. Gretchen Lewis, she was the kind of woman who didn't waste time with niceties. Sharp, efficient, exactly what I needed. "Gretchen," I said, "they're trying to refinance the house without my consent. I want it blocked immediately. Send me the original mortgage, the deed. Anything you have," she said without hesitation, "will freeze their ability to move without your signature." I sent the documents within an hour, but it didn't feel like victory. Not yet, it just felt necessary. Later that afternoon, I opened a blank email. Subject: request for audit, body. A full financial breakdown of all personal and family-related expenses I have covered in the last 6 years. I listed everything I could remember. Down payment on the house, $62,000. Rick's pickup truck loan, $18,500. Madeline's wedding expenses, $27,000. Tyler's college tuition, almost $40,000. Medical support for Linda in 2021, $55,000. Miscellaneous unpaid borrowings, at least $12,000. I didn't stop to think if it looked petty. I just wrote. I wanted the numbers to speak louder than the excuses ever had. 2 days later, my accountant sent me the finalized document, a spreadsheet neatly categorized by year and purpose, attached receipts, bank transfers, notes in the margin, total $214,500. I stared at the number for a long time, not because I wanted it back, but because it proved something I had always suspected but never dared say out loud. I was not part of this family. I was their emergency fund, their fixer, their fallback plan. I reopened the group chat I had once deleted, re-added the numbers, then attached the spreadsheet. My message was 5 words: I want it all back. I pressed send. Within 10 minutes, my phone exploded. Linda called twice, then 3 times, then again. Madeline sent a voice note. Are you insane? Who tracks money like that with their own family? Tyler texted. I'm working 2 jobs just to survive. You want what? For me to sell blood? Then, Rick, you're tearing this family apart. Your mother hasn't slept in days. I didn't respond. I didn't delete the messages either. I just let them pile up. Their words were meant to pull me back into guilt, into shame. But I wasn't that person anymore. I emailed Gretchen. I want to withdraw my share of ownership in the house. If they can't buy me out, push for a forced sale. She called me almost immediately. Are you sure this will force them to choose between gathering enough to buy you out or selling the property entirely? I didn't hesitate. I'm not doing this out of revenge, I said. Yeah, I'm reclaiming fairness. What they do with that is up to them. That same day, her office sent an official notice to Linda and Rick. Hazel Miller is formally withdrawing her financial interest from the property at 1175 Shoreline Drive. You have 14 days to respond. If no response is received, legal proceedings for forced sale will begin. I expected a storm. What I got was silence, but not the kind that felt like peace. It was the kind that lingered before something breaks. Receipts of a stolen decade. It took 3 days for the silence to crack. The first message came from Madeline, dripping with sarcasm and rage. You really want to see Mom back in that dump of an apartment she used to cry about? You're not just cold, Hazel. You're heartless. I read it twice, then deleted it. I didn't need to keep it. I already knew the pattern. You give, they forget. You stop giving, they call you cruel. Later that night, Linda's number showed up on my screen. No name attached. I hadn't saved her new contact. I didn't have to. I could feel her in the rhythm of the ringing. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail instead. Hazel, if you go through with this, we'll lose everything. The house, the cars. We have nowhere to go. Are you really this heartless? I sat there listening to it play twice. Not because I doubted myself, but because I recognized something I hadn't heard before in her voice. Panic. Not sadness, not guilt, just fear of consequence. I didn't feel cold, I felt clear. And for the first time in years, I understood something simple and powerful. If I didn't finish what I started, I would go right back into the role they had written for me. The good daughter, the dependable one, the silent wallet, the fixer who always bent but never broke. And I was done playing that part. After Gretchen sent the notice, the silence returned. 1 week, no calls, no texts, no responses, but I could feel it, the buildup, the whispering, the recalculating behind the scenes. Then it arrived, Monday afternoon. An email from Gretchen. Your family has agreed to sell the house. It's being listed as a fast sale property, but they're already trying to delay your portion of the payment. I typed 2 words in response. Stay close. 3 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered out of instinct. Hazel, it's Aunt Amelia. Her voice was soft. Careful, the way people speak when they're not sure if they're about to be the next bridge burned. Your mom called me crying. She says you're throwing the whole family out into the streets. I don't know what's going on, but if she said you're demanding hundreds of thousands of dollars, is that true? I didn't argue. I didn't explain the spreadsheet, the receipts, the years of silent giving. Not because I didn't respect Amelia, but because I no longer felt responsible for justifying my own boundaries. Everyone believes the version of the story that suits their comfort. So I told her gently but firmly, I'm only asking for what I gave. They can sell the house, the cars, whatever they bought with my money. That's fairness, not revenge. She went quiet, then she hung up. 2 weeks later, the house was officially listed. A 2-story, 3-bedroom with a wooden deck out back. I recognized it in the listing photos. The same place we once held 4th of July barbecues. The place where Linda used to pose for family Christmas pictures like we were perfect. It was listed below market value, probably to cover debt faster. I didn't feel anything when I saw it. No nostalgia, no grief. Just a hollow neutrality, like looking at a house I had once visited but never truly lived in. Then came the cars. Rick's Ford Explorer sold for $15,000. Linda's sedan was posted on Facebook Marketplace with the caption, downsizing for a fresh start, as if it were a choice. Then the jewelry. The white gold necklace Linda always wore, the one she said was from her wedding day. the sapphire earrings I had given her after my first promotion. I recognized them in a photo sent to Gretchen as proof of their payment efforts. Then came the money. First transfer 10,000, a week later 5,000. I didn't reply. I didn't even acknowledge receipt. But Gretchen didn't wait. She sent a formal letter, collection notice, a reminder that the full amount was due, no more delays, no more negotiation. The next morning I received the last transfer, $7,200. Together it added up to $22,200, exactly what I asked for, not a penny more. I stared at the transaction notification for a long time, not because I was relieved, but because that cold line of text transfer, complete, was the sum of 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of being the first call when something went wrong, 10 years of giving without question, without thanks, without pause. It was never really about the money. It was about what the money replaced: respect, consideration, love. And now, with the money finally returned, there was nothing left to owe and nothing left to give. The knock on your door isn't concern, it's control. It was Saturday morning when they came back. I was brewing coffee in the kitchen, watching steam rise from the mug, thinking maybe the worst had passed. That now, with everything paid and closed, they'd finally leave me alone. But then came the pounding. Not a knock, not a ring. Pounding. Angry, insistent, the kind of knock that isn't asking to be heard. It's demanding to be obeyed. I walked to the door slow and steady and checked the security camera. There they were. All of them. Linda standing at the front, arms stiff at her sides, lips pressed into a line that looked carved into stone. Rick's shoulders squared, face flushed, like he had been practicing what he'd say the whole drive over. Madeline off to the side phone in her hand, probably already recording. Tyler behind her, quiet as usual, staring down at the ground. I didn't open the door. I didn't unlock it. I just turned on the speaker. "What do you want?" Linda stepped closer. "Open the door, Hazel. We need to talk." "I don't think we do," her voice sharpened. "Enough of this. You've made your point." "I haven't said a word," I said calmly. "It's you who's been talking nonstop to the police, to Aunt Amelia, to whoever will listen. I've been silent, and that silence should tell you everything." Rick jumped in. "You're acting like a child? You think this is how adults solve problems, by blocking everyone and sending lawyers?" I almost laughed. "You mean the way you tried to refinance a house behind my back? Or send the police to my door because I stopped answering your texts? Is that the adult way?" Madeline's voice broke through next. "You always think you're the victim. You have money, Hazel. You live alone in a nice place. What's the big deal?" "The big deal," I said slowly, "is that I was never allowed to keep anything that was mine. Not my paycheck, not my peace, not even my birthday." That stopped them for a second, but not for long. Rick stepped forward. "We raised you. We put food on the table, a roof over your head. And now this is how you repay us." I blinked once. "You raised me until I was 16. Then I got a part-time job. I paid for college myself with scholarships. I worked every summer. I bought my first car on my own. What part of that do you want?" Credit for Linda's voice cut in. "Shaking, angry, desperate. And what about the nights I stayed up worrying about you, the loans I took out to get Christmas presents for this family?" I stepped back from the speaker, took a breath, then leaned in again. "Not once did I ask you to do that. I never expected it. You chose it, then used it as leverage." Madeline rolled her eyes loud enough for me to hear it in her voice. "Here we go again. Poor Hazel, always the martyr." "You're right," I replied. "I'm not the only one who struggled, but I'm the only one who kept giving without being allowed to say no." Rick's fists were clenched now. "This is ridiculous. We're family. Family doesn't do this to each other." "No," I said. "Family doesn't use each other. Family doesn't disappear on birthdays and then send a bill for their own party. Family doesn't try to steal houses and then blame you for fighting back." Linda's face had twisted into something I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. That look, part fury, part disbelief, like the idea of me disobeying her, didn't compute. "You want out," she hissed. "Fine, but don't come crawling back when you're alone and empty." I smiled, not cruelly, just truthfully. If I have to choose between being alone or being used, I choose alone. Madeline scoffed. "You think you're some hero now? Just wait. Life has a way of humbling people. I've been humbled, I said, by every time I paid and no one said thank you, by every time I was called dramatic for needing rest, by every time I hoped for kindness and got silence. Rick opened his mouth, but I had already pressed the button to end the speaker feed. Then I opened the door. Just a crack, enough to see their faces clearly. I didn't let them in, I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at each of them in turn, then spoke with the calm I had earned. You don't recognize me anymore. Good, that means I finally changed. Then I closed the door. Slowly, firmly, I locked it, then stood there breathing in the quiet. Their footsteps faded down the hall. A car door slammed. An engine started, but none of that mattered, because they were on the outside now, and I wasn't. The last deal they didn't see coming. The silence after that door closed felt different than before. It wasn't tense or heavy or waiting for the next blow. It was solid, clear, like the sound of something breaking that should have broken years ago. That night, I sat on the floor in my living room, back against the couch laptop on my knees. I opened the spreadsheet again, the one with every dollar I had given over the last decade. It didn't make me angry to look at it anymore. It just made things real, documented, no longer deniable. The next morning, Gretchen called. Her voice was clipped businesslike. They've agreed to sell the house, she said. Fast sale listing, but they're already trying to delay the payment of your share. I exhaled, not surprised. They'll stall, she added. Try to find loopholes, play the pity card. You ready to push? I'm beyond ready, I said. She filed the next letter that afternoon. Formal collection, legal notice, no negotiations, no extensions. That same day, I started seeing movement online. Frank's car, his Pride, the Ford Explorer, he always polished every Sunday, was listed for sale. $15,000 marked as well cared for downsizing due to life changes. Linda's sedan went up next. Facebook Marketplace, photos with soft filters, and a caption about simplifying, as if this was some minimalist rebrand and not a slow unraveling. Then the jewelry, pieces I had seen my mother wear since I was a teenager. The necklace she called her wedding treasure. The sapphire earrings I had given her when I got my first big promotion. I spotted them in a grainy photo attached to a transaction receipt Gretchen forwarded. They're liquidating fast, she noted in her email. They should, I replied. They've been living off me long enough. The first payment came in quietly. 10,000. No message, no explanation, just the cold clinical line transfer received. A week later, another 5,000, then silence. I waited 3 days, nothing more came. Gretchen acted immediately. Another letter, final notice. If the balance wasn't clear by end of week, we would initiate forced sale of any remaining jointly held assets. They must have believed I was bluffing. They didn't know I had already spent a decade giving in. I didn't flinch. The remaining 7,200 arrived the following morning. I stared at the total amount for a long time. $22,200, not a penny more than what I'd asked for. Exact, precise. Like they had used a calculator, not a heart. Funny how for years they'd told me I was exaggerating, that I didn't really give that much, that I should stop keeping score. But now, when faced with proof and consequence, they suddenly found the exact amount down to the dollar. That number wasn't closure, but it was confirmation. They had always known how much I gave. They just hoped I never would. Later that day, I received a short update from Gretchen. The house had been vacated. Frank had apparently lost his job 3 months earlier, something he had kept from everyone. Linda's credit score was too low to qualify for a new rental. Tyler and Madeline had moved in with their partners. Neither of them had offered to take their parents in. There was a rumor they were staying in an old RV. Frank used to talk about converting into a travel van for retirement. Maybe now it was their main home. I didn't smile at the thought. I didn't gloat, but I didn't feel guilty either. Then came the final message. It was from Madeline. You happy now, Mom's curled up in a freezing van with no heater. You call that justice? I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because that message told me everything I needed to know. That even after everything, after the lies, the theft, the manipulation, they still believed I existed to save them. And I don't live in that story anymore. That night I walked down to the lake. No phone, no music, just the sound of water tapping the rocks and my breath finding a rhythm again. The air was crisp, the sky soft with stars. I sat on a bench near the edge of the water and looked out over the calm surface. No missed calls, no frantic messages, no accusations waiting behind the screen. Just peace. It didn't feel loud or triumphant. It felt like exhaling, like finally being allowed to live a life without owing anyone for the privilege. You don't rebuild, you rise. 4 months passed. No calls, no knocks, no more messages from unknown numbers asking for explanations, apologies, or emergency transfers. The quiet wasn't just quiet anymore, it was mine. At first, I didn't know what to do with it. I had spent so many years responding, fixing, giving, explaining. When no one needed anything from me, it felt like standing in a room with no furniture, nothing to trip over, nothing to hold on to, just space. But over time, that space became air, breathable, steady, safe. One Friday, a coworker I didn't know well asked if I wanted to join a few people for bowling after work. Normally, I would have smiled politely and said no, but that day I surprised myself. I said yes. We drove to a little alley not far from downtown. Neon lights bounced off the polished lanes. Laughter echoed from a birthday party in the corner. The place smelled like fried food and old wood. I picked a lane at the end, farthest from the crowd. I wasn't there to be social, I was just testing something, seeing if I had really stepped out of that old life. I threw a few frames, missed some, knocked down 7 on one try. The sound of the pins crashing felt strangely good, like permission to be clumsy to take up space. Then I saw him, 2 lanes over, struggling with a dark green bowling ball, shoulders hunched, hair thinner than I remembered. Rick, my stepfather. I froze. He hadn't seen me yet. I could have walked away. I could have turned around, said I had a headache, and left before he noticed. But I didn't. I stood still. He bent down, picked up the ball, and turned toward the lane. That's when his eyes caught mine. His face registered it instantly. Shock, a flicker of shame, and then something more complicated, something like grief. He walked over slow and unsure, as if one wrong step might send the whole moment toppling. Hazel, he said softly, didn't expect to see you here. I didn't speak. He nodded toward the empty lane beside me. Mind if I roll a few? I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no either. I just signaled the attendant to reset the lane. He sat beside me, the silence stretched. His first throw rolled straight into the gutter. He gave a quiet, embarrassed laugh. Guess I lost the only thing I was ever good at. I didn't respond. He sat down again, hands clasped. His voice dropped. I didn't come to ask for money. If this were the old me, I probably would have. But not now. I turned to look at him. The green neon brushed across his face, showing lines I hadn't noticed before. I used to think being a man meant being in charge, he said, meant holding it all together. But the truth is, I never held anything. Not really, especially not you. You started growing up, earning, building your life, and I felt small. He looked down. So I used the only thing I had left, the title of stepfather, and I used it badly. I didn't soften, I didn't reach out, but I listened. I know no apology fixes it, he continued, but I need you to know I do regret it. Deeply. I should have told you years ago that I was proud of you. There it was, the one sentence I had waited half my life to hear, and yet I felt no relief, no release, just stillness. Not because it didn't matter, but because I didn't need it anymore. I spoke quietly. I'm not coming back, Rick. I'm not trying to reconnect. I don't want to rebuild. I just want to live the rest of my life without being expected to carry someone else's. He nodded. No protest, no pushback. Then he did something I didn't expect. He held out his hand. It trembled slightly, not from fear, from uncertainty. I looked at it, then slowly I extended mine. His hand was cold. Mine wasn't warm, but for once it felt equal. I stood up, adjusted my coat. I'm heading out, I said. He didn't ask me to stay. Outside, the air was cool. The street lights streaked across the windshield as I drove. Each red light felt like a breath I didn't know I had been holding. At home, I opened the window. The night breeze carried the scent of the magnolia hedges outside. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Someone laughed. And I felt still, not stuck, not scared, just still. I brewed tea, sat on the floor, no TV, no phone. I wasn't thinking about the past anymore. I wasn't counting the years I had lost, or the dollars or the calls I never got. I was thinking about the morning ahead, about the walk I'd take by the lake, the book I might start reading, the silence I now owned. I used to think revenge would feel like power, but it didn't. Because what I did wasn't revenge, it was release. I didn't walk away to hurt anyone, I walked away to stop hurting. And in doing so, I didn't rebuild, I rose. Sometimes the hardest door to close is the one you were born behind. But once you do, you realize it was never locked, just heavy with guilt, expectation, and the weight of being needed more than being loved. Hazel's story is a reminder that walking away from family is not weakness. It is a choice to stop living a life measured only by how much you give. As Maya Angelou once said, never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. If this story moved you, if it made you reflect on your own boundaries, your own voice, I invite you to subscribe to Revenge Stories 94. Your one click helps this channel reach 1,000 subscribers, but more than that, it helps bring these quiet, powerful stories to life. This video holds a lesson not just about money or betrayal, but about freedom. Please share your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. And remember, sometimes the most powerful revenge is not what you do to others, it's what you finally do for yourself. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and stay free.